गिरिं यत्कृपातमहं वन्दे श्रीगुरुदीनतारणं परमानन्दं माधवम्. Hare Krishna, thank you for joining. So, we will resume from the 13th verse of the 10th chapter, 5th canto. And this chapter essentially is talking about, it's laying the, so this is the initial discussion between Jat Bharat and Maharaj Rahugana, right? And as I mentioned, that this discussion then unfolds successively into some very important preaching points. So the chapter begins with Rahugana getting upset at Jat Bharat. He was not carrying the palanquin properly. It was, he was trying to avoid the ants. So he chastises him. Verses 6th and 7th are essentially chastisement in a sarcastic way. That you have been carrying it for a very long time, so you must be very tired, and you're so thin and malnourished, and you're clearly not being helped by the other people. So everything that he felt that Jat Bharat was responsible for, he kind of flipped it around and said that, no, you are right, everybody else is wrong. And then Jat Bharat begins to reply to Maharaj Rahugana and taking both the apparent meaning and the hidden meaning and addressing that. So we were at verse 13th. So let's start from there. Unmatama jadvat swasamsthama gatasya me vira chikitstitena arthakiyan bhavata shikshitena stapramatasya chapishtapeshaha. My dear king, you have said, you rascal, you dull, crazy fellow, I'm going to chastise you, and then you will come to your senses. In this regard, let me say that although I live like a dull, deaf and dumb man, I'm actually a self-realized person. What will you gain by punishing me? If your calculation is true and I'm a madman, then your punishment will be like beating a dead horse. There will be no effect. When a madman is punished, he is not cured of his madness. So this is a response to Maharaj Rahugana's comment in verse 7, where he said, you are mad. For this disobedience, I shall punish you so that you come to your senses. So Jat Bharat explains that there are two kinds of people that appear to be mad. There is the fully self-realized person, and then those who are actually insane. So the first proposition, which is more implicit, is that would you actually like to punish a self-realized person? So Jat Bharat here says that I'm actually a self-realized person, right? And it looks a little bit different from his mode of humility. But the point that is made is that humility should never be used like a weapon. It should not be used to put other people in a precarious situation. Right? So example is that there's a doctor who's capable of curing a patient, and the patient comes and says to the doctor that you are the expert doctor, please cure me. And the doctor said, no, I'm so humble. How can I cure you? I have no ability to cure you. So I can't really do anything for you. No, the doctor will say, yes, I have experience in this and I will cure you. So that's not boasting. right? It's true humility, where the person is taking a position that is suitable for serving others. So one point is that fine, if I am, if you consider me to be self-realized, which I am, then it's not appropriate for you to chastise me and speak to me in this way. Or if I am really mad, then what is the point in punishing a mad person? Vishnu Chakravarti says that Jat Bharat gives the example of it's like beating a dead horse. The horse is not going to get up and start running. And Vishnu Chakravarti gives the example of that it's like grinding that which is already ground. You take the wheel and you beat and you make it, you grind it into flour. You can never get wheat back out of it. You say, okay, now I'll grind it more, so I'll get wheat. No, it will just become finer and finer flour. So it's essentially punishing out of malice without any real effect out of it. The Srila Prabhupada talks about it from a more philosophical perspective, and Raghugana says that Jat Bharat is mad. Prabhupada says that everyone in this material world is working like a madman. A thief who knows that stealing is not good still follows that path, even though he has seen that when a thief is caught, he is punished. Even though the scriptures tell that the thief is punished by the law of karma, he steals again and again, thinking that ultimately it will make him happy. Prabhupada says that is a sign of madness. So the point Prabhupada makes over here is that Prabhupada is basically making this a preaching point, that just like Jat Bharat is saying that punishing a mad person has no advantages. Similarly, the material world is full of mad people, and punishing them is not going to be of any advantage. The real solution is to cure the madness. The source of the madness is that they are thinking that they are falsely the owner in the material world. They do not recognize the position of Krishna. So Prabhupada transposes that into a more preaching perspective, a realization perspective, and explains that in the purport. Okay. Verse 14. Sukadeva Goswami said, O Maharaj Parikshit, when King Raghugana chastised the exalted devotee Jat Bharat with harsh words, that peaceful, saintly person tolerated it all and replied properly. Nations is due to the bodily conception, and Jat Bharat was not affected by this false conception. Out of his natural humility, he never considered himself a great devotee, and he agreed to suffer the results of his past karma. Like an ordinary man, he thought that by carrying the palanquin, he was destroying the reactions of his past misdeeds. Thinking in this way, he began to carry the palanquin as before. So the understanding is that after Jat Bharat spoke whatever he did, he continued to carry the palanquin. Right? So we see some contradictory behavior apparently contradictory behavior by Jat Bharat. So if he was truly exalted, then there was no need for him to respond to what the king said. But we see that he does respond. Right? In fact, he says, I'm a self-realized soul, and essentially he's saying that you're foolish. If he was truly exalted, then he should have carried on in this conception that is stated in the verse that my prarabdha karmas are being extinguished. Right? Now, if he was truly materially vested, then he should have retorted and defeated Maharaj Raghugana on the basis of logic. That these points you're making, these are the refutations, so you're a fool. But what we see is that Jat Bharat is displaying both types of behavior. So he responds to the accusations of Maharaj Raghuna, which may indicate that he has ego and he is unable to tolerate the chastisement. He wants to defeat Raghuna. But at the same time, he also continues with the service. He says, tell me what to do. He said, regardless of whatever it is, tell me what to do. So how do we reconcile these two things? Right. So firstly, Jat Bharat, based on what has been explained to us, was indeed on a spiritual platform. So on that spiritual platform, he was correcting the false conception of Maharaj Raghuna. Jat Bharat was also steeped in humility. So even though he recognized that he was on a spiritual platform, but he did not consider himself to be liberated. So he was advanced enough to know that any adversities that are coming his way are burning away his prarabdha karma. But he was humble enough to understand that I am full of prarabdha karma. Even though it said that he had a body, it will be said he has a body that was spiritual, but he did not consider that. He said that no, my body is there because I have prarabdha karma. So let me accept the chastisement, the verbal chastisement, the physical chastisement of Maharaj Raghuna. The Vishwanath Chakravarti says that Jat Bharat thought he was destroying his own karmas by this experience of carrying the palanquin and being chastised by the king, because he did not consider himself to be a devotee. This was due to humility that was produced in him by Krishna Prema. Right? So this is the second understanding. Right? So first understanding is that from the spiritual platform that he was on, he felt that it was his duty to correct the false conception of the king. The second was, considering himself to be on a material platform, he was accepting the chastisements as a way to burn away his prarabdha karma. So this explains the apparently contradictory behavior. The third point is that he was showing mercy to the king. He was not only trying to destroy his own prarabdha karma, but he was also trying to destroy the king's prarabdha karma. So by enlightening the king on the spiritual platform, by engaging with the king and debating with him, he was saying that if somehow I can help this person make spiritual advancement, it is worth my effort to either accept the chastisement or to put myself in the position of a teacher. Right? So even that he's doing as a service. He's putting himself, we'll see later on, he instructs pretty directly. Like he's pretty heavy in parts on the king. He's doing it as a service to the king. That it's not my nature to be that, but out of affection for the king, just like a guru will chastise the disciple out of affection, Jat Bharat, he is taking that position that how can I open the door of bhakti for the king? So in the purport, Prabhupada, that's a wonderful purport. He says that the advanced saintly person, they will never think that they are Paramhamsa. Right? What is their conduct? That they will always remain a humble servant of the Lord. Right? So this this whole notion of advanced devotee, it's an oxymoron in a way, because if the more the devotee advances, the more the devotee becomes humble. Now, we can use it in the context of others, of course, because it is our nature to glorify others. So we can say, oh, this is an advanced devotee, and that's a, that's a way of glorifying ourselves by appreciating others. But obviously, this is not a position where a genuine devotee will place himself in. Right? You won't see a genuine devotee ever saying, I'm a very advanced devotee, or I'm on a very exalted platform. So the mood is to remain a humble servant of the Lord. While staying a humble servant of the Lord, the second characteristic is that in all reverses, the person suffers silently, considering this to be a reaction to the past life. That I have done something, this is my karma that is now maturing, it's my prarabdha karma, and therefore I have to suffer. Such a person is described as sthit pragya in Bhagavad Gita. Right? So if you look at why is the person equipoised in honor and dishonor? Because the person is not really considering the other to be responsible for the honor and dishonor. The person is simply saying that I am the cause of my own happiness and distress. And I am also happy that this is burning away the results of my past karma. So that's the real basis of Sthita Pragya, right? Srila Prabhupada comments on, I think this is 254. The third Prabhupada talks about is, third characteristic is that he never blames the Lord for the lordship, for their hardships, which is a corollary to the first. If he's blaming himself, or not even blaming himself, he's holding himself accountable. And then one can understand that he's not going to blame the Lord. And Prabhupada quotes this famous verse from the praise of Lord Brahma Tate Sumikshamano Gunjanivatma Katam Vipakam. So essentially what that is saying is that that one who constantly awaits your mercy while patiently suffering the reactions of their past misdeeds are surely eligible for liberation. Another way of saying is that they're qualified to be advanced devotees. Okay, let's go to the next verse, 15.
You can't try. Okay. So what do you want me to do?
So let's go to verse 15. Sukadeva Goswami continued, O best of the Pandu dynasty, Maharaj Parikshit, the king of the Sindhu and Sovira states, Maharaj Rahugana, had great faith in discussions of the absolute truth. Being thus qualified, he heard from Jat Bharat that philosophical presentation which is approved by all scriptures on the mystic yoga process and which slackens the knot in the heart. His material conception of himself as a king was thus destroyed. And he immediately descended from his palanquin and fell flat on the ground with his head on the lotus feet of Jat Bharat in such a way that he might be excused for his insulting words against the great Brahman. He then prayed as follows. So this verse reveals that why does Maharaj Rahugana become a suitable recipient of the mercy of Jat Bharat. So we see Jat Bharat has interacted with so many people in the past. His own father, he did not preach to him, who was very, very favorably inclined. His brothers, they were not favorably inclined, but yet they were his family. The neighbors. So he had stayed deaf and dumb and mute in front of all of them. Why this mercy to Maharaj Rahugana? So the actions of great men are revealed not from the perspective that they can never make a mistake, but how do they deal with the mistake, right? So Maharaj Rahugana, if you look at it from his perspective, that a few moments ago, he was this mighty king sitting on a palanquin, chastising one of the palanquin carriers who was dressed in tattered clothes, dirty, and looked deaf and dumb. From there, now in the presence of the other palanquin carriers, his other entourage, he has no hesitation in falling at the feet. So he doesn't say to Jat Bharat that, can you come with me in a secluded place and then I can apologize to you. Or he does not give him a covered apology. Sometimes people give a covered apology that, Rahugana would have said that, okay, what you're saying is fine. Let me understand a little bit more. Speak to me a little bit more. He apologizes unconditionally. That is the sign of his greatness. So that is why Sukadeva Goswami prefaces it by saying that he had great faith in the discussion of the absolute truth and being thus qualified. So just speaking is not enough. The receptacle should also be qualified to receive. This demonstrates that Rahugan was a qualified receptacle. And this is what opened the heart of Jat Bharat. In 254, when Arjuna asks Krishna ka bhasa, when he talks about Chitta Pragya, he says ka bhasha, how does he speak? How does he speak? And contextually, it means that how does he react to the dualities of happiness and distress, honor and dishonor, praise and blame. So Arjuna says, does he get disturbed? Does he hide it? Or does he speak clearly? Right? And the answer is in 256 and 257, where Krishna simply says that he does not react. So Rahugana saw the same quality in Jat Bharat. That he could understand that this person was a Sthita Pragya. He was not an ordinary person. Just like they say that a fool is revealed when he opens his mouth. Right? And ka bhasa, how does he speak? But how did Jat Bharat speak? He spoke with equanimity. And when he spoke, then Jat Bharat Rahugana could understand this is no ordinary person. And and we will later on see that now he has two kinds of anxieties. He has anxieties that he has offended a great personality, and he is also equally anxious to make advancement. And with these two anxieties, which are very, very relevant to all of us in trying to make spiritual advancements, that at one point we are anxious that we don't do offenses. This in this case is Vaishnava Pran, but generally we are particular that we don't do offenses, whether to Vaishnavas or to deities or to scriptures. And the second is we are anxious to make progress. So Srila Prabhupada glorifies the surrender of Maharaj Rahugana, and he says that this is the way that Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, 4th chapter, that saintly kings make progress. Right? This is 4.2, when he says that Krishna says that is the way by in which the Raj Rishis receive knowledge in the disciplic succession. Prabhupada gives the example of Vishwamitra. That when Vishwamitra came to the court of Maharaj Dasharath, then he says the king, in order to receive the saintly person, asked him, Ahishtam yattat punarjanma jayaya. He asked the sage whether everything was going on well in his endeavor to conquer the reputation of birth and death, because that is the preoccupation of saintly person. Later on, he says that the king attained this perfection of understanding the human value of life. Therefore, he regretted his insulting words to Jadbharat, immediately descended from the palanquin and fell down at the lotus feet of Jadbharat in order to be excused and to hear from him further about the values of life. Right? So these two anxieties. He wanted to be excused about Vaishnava Prant, and he wanted to know about the process of making spiritual advancement. Okay. Moving on to the next verse, verse 16. Ashtvam niguda charasi dvijanam viprasi sutram katamo vaduta kashyasi kutratiha pikasma Kshemaya naschedasi nota shuklaha. King Rahugan said, O Brahman, you appear to be moving in this world very much covered and unknown to others. Who are you? Are you a learned Brahman and saintly person? I see that you are wearing a sacred thread. Are you one of those exalted, liberated saints, such as Dattatreya and other highly advanced learned scholars? May I ask whose disciple you are? Where do you live? Why have you come to this place? Is your mission in coming here to do good for us? Please let me know who you are. So from verse 16 to 20 are questions that the king places before Jadbharat. Right? So actually from 16 to 25, right through. The last 5 verses are also questions, but they're more of challenges, where he's challenging Jadbharat's original reply in a humble mode. But 16 to 20 are completely inquiring questions. So the first question is about the identity of Jadbharat. So considering that Jadbharat is acting like an Avadut, Rahugana, he thinks of the other Avaduts. So he inquires that, are you Dattatreya? So Dattatreya, as you know, is the son of Atri and Ansuya, and incarnation of Krishna, Shakti Veshatar of Krishna. So they had 3 sons, right? They had Dattatreya, Som, and Durvasha. And Dattatreya was incarnation of Vishnu, Som was incarnation of Brahma, and Durvasha was of Lord Shiva. So Dattatreya was famous for his knowledge of the scriptures. But he moved about as if he knew nothing. So considering that Jadbharat is speaking on an exalted platform, but dressed, and he says he's like a that are you Kapila? Like a second option, he says that are you Kapila? So Shukla is translated uh, um, by Vishwanath Chakravarti as Kapila. Srila Prabhupada writes it in the word-to-word translation. It's the last word of the shlok where he says Shukla is the personality in the mode of goodness, Kapila Dev. In the translation, he uses the first part. He says that, are you a highly advanced learned scholar? Slight nuance, and essentially the same thing. So he's asking that, are you a highly advanced person like Lord Kapil? Then he says, what is your lineage? Right? He's saying that, who's your father? Who's your guru? What is your lineage? Where are you coming from? What is the purpose of your coming here? So Prabhupada says that it is significant that Rahugan asked Jat Bharat which family he belonged to. There are two kinds of families. So one is the seminal family, and the other is the spiritual family. One is the family by father, son, etc., and the other is by guru disciple. So he's Jat Bharat is being asked either or both of them. Who's your father, grandfather, which family you are? When Jat Bharat comes from Angira Brahmins. Or he's asking who's your guru. And Jat Bharat had actually not taken formal initiation in the mode of a Avadut. Prabhupada said the word Shukla refers to a person in the mode of goodness. That is one of the meaning. As I mentioned that Vishnu Chakravarti translates Shukla to Kapila. And Prabhupada says if one wants to receive spiritual knowledge, he must approach a bona fide Brahman guru, either in the disciplic section or in a family of learned Brahmanas. Okay. So we go to verse 17. Nam Vishanke Suraraja Vajran Natre Shashula Nayamasya Danda Naganyarka Sumani Lavita Pashtra Chanke Brahasham Brahmkulavamana. My dear sir, I am not at all afraid of the thunderbolt of King Indra, nor am I afraid of the serpentine, piercing trident of Lord Shiva. I do not care about the punishment of Yamraj, the superintendent of death, nor am I afraid of fire, scorching sun, moon, wind, nor the weapons of Kuber. Yet I am afraid of offending a Brahmana. I am very much afraid of this. So this is a nice verse. It again talks about the greatness of the king. That he talks about so many possible adversities, right? Whether it is the trident of Shiva or the thunderbolt of Indra or the noose of Yamraj. Right now, he's not saying that he is superior to all of these. Right? He says, I'm not afraid of them. Which means that if the trident of Lord Shiva comes and pierces him, then he will accept the pain. He's a Kshatriya. For Kshatriya, battle either vanquish or be vanquished. Now, when he's talking about his personalities, he knows he will be vanquished. He will not be able to defeat Indra, not be able to defeat Lord Shiva, not be able to defeat Yamraj. But he says, I'm not afraid of all this this pain that might be inflicted upon me. Right? So the point he's trying to make is that he is begging for Jat Bharat's forgiveness, not because of fear of any material adversity. He says, I can tolerate material adversity. So he's saying that I'm not scared that by offending you, my kingdom might get taken away, or I might get, my good fortune might be destroyed. He says, but I'm afraid that I may have offended you. Right? So he's saying that is the only fear that I have of offending a Brahmana and a devotee. So these statements by Maharaj Rahugan, while they are demonstrating his depth of realizations, they're also demonstrating his qualifications for being a suitable disciple to Jat Bharat. Prabhupada says that at the Dashamegh Ghat, when Rupa Goswami was instructing Mahaprabhu, he clearly pointed out the seriousness of offending a Vaishnava. And he said that it is the Hati Mata Aparat, a mad elephant. The elephant comes, it destroys everything. So there are many dangerous things: thunderbolts, fire, Yamaraj, Lord Shiva's trident, and so forth. But none is considered as serious as offending a Brahman like Jat Bharat. Therefore, Maharaj Rahugan immediately descended from his palanquin and fell flat before the lotus feet of the Brahmana, Jat Bharat, just to be excused. Okay. So we'll do one more verse, and after that we'll pause for any discussion. Verse 18. Tad bruya sango jadvan niguda vigyan viryo vicharasya paraha vachamsi yoga grahitani sadho nanaha kshamante manasa pibetum. My dear sir, it appears that the influence of your great spiritual knowledge is hidden. Actually, you are bereft of all material association and fully absorbed in the thought of the Supreme. Consequently, you are unlimitedly advanced in spiritual knowledge. Please tell me, why are you wandering about like a dullard? O great saintly person, you have spoken words approved by the yogic process, but it is not possible for us to understand what you have said. Therefore, kindly explain it. So, the king is continuing to inquire about the identity of Jat Bharat from two perspectives. One, he says that you are appearing like a dullard and acting like a palanquin courier. Yet you are speaking topics of advanced spirituality. That's one perspective. Second, the king is accepting that the words of Jat Bharat have had a much more profound effect on him than any other interactions he has had with saintly people. So he is also inquiring about the true identity of Jat Bharat. Right? So the two questions he's asking is, who are you and why are you disguised like this? And he's substantiating these questions based on, one, his empirical observation that Jat Bharat is carrying a palanquin, appearing like a dullard. That's the empirical observation. And the second is his realization based on the words spoken by Jat Bharat. Right? So yes, he has two inputs, and based on that, he's asking these two questions. Who are you? You're speaking such elevated words. And why are you disguised? So Prabhupada comments on the second aspect, and he says that knowledge must be given in accordance with the level of elevation of the receiving person. So we see that in the past also, that when there is a dialogue that begins, the person who asks the question will ask it in a way that also demonstrates his level of advancement. And this is not to boast, but so that the answer is relevant. Like when Narad Muni is asking questions of Brahma, he glorifies Brahma's position. That you're so powerful, everything you're controlling, yet you appear to be under the control of somebody else. Who is that person that you're under the control of? Or Vidur, when he asks Maitreya, he glorifies Maitreya. He also talks about what his understanding is, and then he starts asking questions. So a truly experienced speaker will first discern the level of advancement, and a truly experienced inquirer will reveal his level of advancement in a way that glorifies the other person, does not look like it's boasting, but also establishes the baseline with which the conversation should happen. In the 20th chapter of the Bhagavatam, where in Vrindavan the rainy and autumn season is described. So the rainy season is compared to professional speakers. So the rainy season is that the water falls everywhere, indiscriminately, whether on dry, wet, whether on pond or lake or land, it falls everywhere. So they're compared to professional speakers. They don't care who is sitting, they will talk about the most intimate rasa dance, or they will talk about, even if the audience is elevated, they will talk about the more material aspects of it. So they don't care. They have a speech to give, which is there from the perspective of entertainment or making money, whatever so they will give that. So the rainy season is compared to them, but the autumn is compared to the bona fide speakers. So in the autumn, in the metaphor that is given, in the autumn season, sometimes there is water and sometimes there is no water. So similarly, a bona fide speaker will sometimes speak and sometimes be silent. He will speak when the audience is suitable. Otherwise, he will be silent. So when we look at the pastimes that are described, so the pastimes related to creation are considered to be confidential. Sarga, Visarga, they are considered to be confidential. Then pastimes that are related to the incarnations of Krishna are considered to be more confidential. They should be spoken to one who is more advanced. Then amongst the incarnations, the pastimes that are relevant to the Manushya avatar, the human-like incarnations, like Lord Ram, Krishna, Balram, they are even more confidential. They should be spoken to even a more advanced audience. Then of the Manushya avatar, Krishna's pastimes are considered to be even more confidential. Then amongst Krishna's pastimes, his pastimes in Dwarka are less confidential than the pastimes in Mathura. The pastimes in Mathura are less confidential than the pastimes in Vrindavan. In Vrindavan, Krishna's pastimes with his friends is less confidential than with the parents. His pastime with the parents is less confidential than that with the gopis. So even though they are all given in the Bhagavatam, all the way from Rasa dance to Sarga, Visarga, all of them are given in the Bhagavatam. But the idea is that one should delve into them based on of course, the qualification of the speaker is also important. The speaker should be qualified to speak on the subject, and if he's qualified, then he should discern if the audience is qualified to hear about the subject. So the general rule is that one must speak according to the lowest common denominator in the audience. So you're giving a Sunday temple speech. There are newcomers and there are Prabhupada disciples. One should speak according to the newcomers. Sometimes people, they tend to speak with respect to the highest common denominator. Right? They say that, okay, this is meant, let's talk about something from more esoteric aspect of it. And the best case scenario is that they lose the people who are not that advanced. And the worst case scenario is that they contaminate the mind of those who are not that advanced because they're not able to appreciate the more esoteric aspects of the pastime. But on the other hand, if you speak by the lowest common denominator, then those who are advanced will also appreciate it. If you sit and there are devotees who have been practicing for 30 years, and you talk about the fact that the body and the soul are distinct, they will also appreciate it. Right? Last lecture we said that is the beauty of the potency of revision. That even though you may have done the whole, a student may have prepared for the whole course, but he will still take the first chapter and revise it. He may not be learning anything new, but the revision itself is very potent. So those who are advanced, they will also appreciate the basics that he's speaking, and those who are not, they will learn. So the nature of the advanced devotee is they will appreciate Krishna everywhere. Like it is said that the distinction is made by Vishnu Chakravarti Thakur that a devotee who is advanced at a certain level, he will appreciate kirtan only if it is melodious. And a devotee who is even more advanced will appreciate the kirtan whether it is melodious or not. Right? So advanced devotees, they will appreciate Krishna everywhere. So that's why this injunction is given, that one should speak according to the lowest common denominator. So Prabhupada says that it is very risky to give great philosophical instructions to ordinary persons. But Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, for the benefit of the fallen souls of Kali Yuga, has given a very nice instrument, the chanting of the Hare Krishna Mahamantra. Right? So this is something that Prabhupada practiced himself. Like when he would when he would be asked very esoteric questions, his answer would be that all these questions will be answered by the chanting of the Hare Krishna Mahamantra. Now, he did not want to say that you are not qualified to receive the answer, you are not advanced enough to be given this answer, but he would follow the lead of Mahaprabhu. Right? So we saw that Mahaprabhu, depending on when he met common people, he asked them to chant. When he met people like Prakashananda Saraswati, Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya, he engaged in Gyan, in debate with them. And when he met with people like the Goswamis and Ramananda Roy, then he spoke about the more esoteric, confidential aspects of bhakti. Right? So he set that example, and Prabhupada and discipline section, they follow it. In a general class, Prabhupada would put more auto stress, chant Hare Krishna, chant Hare Krishna. And the beauty of it is that even though it is something that everyone can do, the simplicity does not mean that it lacks potency. That's the beauty. When Prabhupada said chant Hare Krishna, this is an instruction that a neophyte can take and apply and make advancement, and an advanced devotee can take and apply and make advancement. Right? So that's the beauty of a truly accomplished preacher and advanced devotee. Okay, let me pause here and see if there's any discussion.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Yes, Prabhu.
Yeah. I have some, maybe we can summarize, probably we may summarize later. But with these three generations, I can say like the Bharat as a king, Bharat as a deer, and Jet Bharat. Basically, from the Jet Bharat perspective, is Krishna trying to reveal that what is the process at different level, like attachment, or here in this case, the advanced devotee, how he has to, what kind of impediments and how he has to react to it. I'm looking from a takeaway perspective. Is that how we need to look at from the Jet Bharat story?
Yes, Prabhu, you're absolutely right. So as you're saying that the pastime, it obviously reveals different facets of instructions. So what do we learn from Jet Bharat? We learn from Jet Bharat tolerance. We learn from Jet Bharat Tatyanukampam Susumekshamaana. We learn from Jet Bharat the importance of being careful regarding association. Right? What do we learn from Maharaj Raghugana? We learn the importance of accepting one's mistake. Like it is said that that example is given. If you boil milk in a pot, and after that you take the milk out, there is that white layer that forms on the pot. If you clean it right away, it goes away just with water. The longer you keep it, the more difficult it becomes to you keep it overnight, and next day morning you have to use a scrubber and detergent to take it off. Much more effort. Same thing. So the potency of immediate apology. As soon as you see there is a mistake, unconditional and immediate apology. Like Raghugana does not try to justify that, look, I was harsh on you because you appear to be like a dullard. Now he's asking him those questions in a different perspective, but he's not using that to justify his own behavior. He said, I made a mistake. And right away, he fell at the feet of me, right? So the behavior of Maharaj Raghugana, then the nature of the discussion. Like Raghugana is asking questions that at one point he wants to ascertain that who am I receiving this information from? He also wants to demonstrate his own level, that yes, I'm at this level. And all this is being done with complete humility and sincerity. And so we are being taught this beautiful exchange between sincere devotees. So I kind of extrapolated what you were saying, but from the aspect of the king, from the aspect of Jet Bharat, and from the aspect of the relation, the interaction between the two, we are going to be extracting so many lessons in addition to the actual explicit lessons that are going to be given by Jet Bharat in answering Raghugana's questions.
Thank you, Prabhu. And when we refer as a Bharat Khanda, it has been told that it is referring to the King Bharat, right?
Prabhu, I'm sorry, you're breaking up. Do you mind repeating the question?
When we refer as a Bharata Khanda, right? It is on. Are we referring as a King Bharat, or the three?
Oh, at least in Prabhupada's purport, he refers to the rule of King Bharat. That because of his rule, before him it was named as Ajnab Desh because of Angira, not Angira, because of the father of Rishabh, I forgot his name now. But then he says clearly that because of the rule of King Bharat, it became to be known as Bharat Desh. So it's because of the King Bharat.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, so no more questions. Let's proceed. Aham cha yogeshwaram atmatatva vidam muninam param gurum vai prastum pravataha kimiharanam tat sakshat dharim jnana kalavatirna. I consider your good self the most exalted master of mystic power. You know the spiritual science perfectly well. You are the most exalted of all learned sages, and you have descended for the benefit of all human society. You have come to give spiritual knowledge, and you are a direct representative of Kapiladev, the incarnation of knowledge, and the plenary portion of incarnation of God, and the plenary portion of knowledge. I am therefore asking you, O spiritual master, what is the most secure shelter in the world? Right, so this essentially is a verse of surrender, where Maharaj Rahugana formally is surrendering to Jat Bharat, and in the mood of a disciple, he is now inquiring from him. So Srila Prabhupada, he brings forth the three important aspects of this surrender. So first he says is, this is the only way to get knowledge. Tad vigyartham sa gurum eva vigachat. Because this pastime is based on the king's surrender to Jat Bharat, Prabhupada will actually quote this verse, Tad vigyartham sa gurum, that the only way to get knowledge, Sagurum eva bhikachat, the tad vigyartham, the only way to get spiritual knowledge, Sagurum eva bhikachat, is to take shelter of a guru. He'll repeat this 3 times in his purport, this verse. So that's the first point. Only way to get knowledge is to approach a guru. The second point is that one must only approach a guru who knows the science of bhakti. And Prabhupada quotes 647, where he says that yoginam api sarvesham, that all the yogis, the one who abides with me and worships me in transcendental loving service, he is the highest of all. So first is only way to get knowledge by approach a guru. Second is what kind of guru? The one who knows the science of bhakti. The third is how to conduct that relationship. Prabhupada says that once you have approached a qualified guru, such a person should be treated at the same level as the Lord. And so Prabhupada quotes Sakshat Dharitvena Samasta Shastrena, right? This is in the in the Guru Ashtakam, that Sansar Bhava, where Vishwanath Chakravarti says that the Guru Sakshat Dharitvena Samasta Shastra, that the Guru is the practical representation, he fully represents the personality of Godhead. So we see that the king demonstrating all these three qualities in surrender. That he is approaching Jat Bharat. When he is glorifying that you know the science, then he's also stating that Jat Bharat is a qualified guru because he knows the science of God. And when he's saying that you're as good as the personality of Godhead, you're a direct representative of Kapila Dev, then he is demonstrating that in this relationship, the guru is to be treated at the same level as the personality of Godhead. Right? Prabhupada would say that a disciple should consider the guru to be like Krishna, but not the guru. So the guru should not think of himself as Krishna. The guru should think of himself as the servant of Krishna. But the disciple should consider the guru to be as good as Krishna. Okay, verse 20. Vaibhava loka nirakshanartham avyaktalingo vicharatyapi svi yogeshwaranam gatimanda buddhi katham vichakshita grahanubandha. Is it not a fact that your good self is a direct representative of Kapila Dev, the incarnation of the Supreme Personality of Godhead? To examine people and see who is actually a human being and who is not, you have presented yourself to be a deaf and dumb person. Are you not moving this way upon the surface of the world? I am very attached to family life and worldly activities, and I am blind to spiritual knowledge. Nonetheless, I now present myself before you and am seeking enlightenment from you. How can I advance in spiritual life? Right? So first he asked that what is the most secure shelter? Now he's asking, how can I advance? So he's also asking Jat Bharat that, are you Kapila? Are you hiding your identity in this world to examine? Right? So in the presence of established authority, people tend to behave a little differently. But like a person may behave differently in front of his servants and differently in front of his master. So the king says that just to observe the people in their natural conduct, you're appearing to be deaf and dumb. And then he's admitting to his own shortcomings. Right? So that's the nature of a disciple. Prabhupada would say that a disciple should always consider himself to be fool number one in front of the guru. Right? Not that the disciple becomes foolish, because that's different, but should consider himself to be fool number one. Because if the disciple considers himself to be very elevated, then there may be a flow of knowledge, but the flow of realization will stop. The flow of realization can only happen just like water. It can only flow from a high place to a low place. So the guru may be merciful and still giving knowledge and realizations. But if the disciple continues to elevate himself, the knowledge may still flow, but not the realizations. Sometimes we have all seen that people will ask questions, and the question is really a sermon. It's just to show their own knowledge. They will say, you said this, but then, and they'll quote a verse, but in this verse this is said, and in that verse that is said, and this verse that is said, and I was reading over here and there it was said like this, and therefore explain to me this. Right? Most of the time when people are hearing this, they will give the bare minimum explanation because they understand that this question is not coming in a mode of inquiry. The question is coming in a mode of self-promotion. The person is saying that, okay, let me now show you how much I know. And for formality's sake, I'll ask you a question. So Rahuguna, he's clearly disambiguating himself. Right? He's not. So it's been said that Rahuguna was advanced in Vedic knowledge, right? But he's saying that I'm blind to spiritual knowledge, and I'm a family person attached to worldly activities. So I'm presenting myself to you as a disciple in terms of how can I advance in spiritual knowledge. And this particular aspect, how can I advance in spiritual knowledge, will become the basis of further instructions by Jet Bharat. So in this purport, Srila Prabhupada for the second time quotes the same verse, Tad Vigyatam Saguru Maiva Bhikshat. He says that a person like Maharaj Raghunath, who was very inquisitive to know, must approach a bona fide spiritual master. And then he says, Tasmad Guru Prapetya Jigyasu Shreha Uttama. One must approach a guru like Jet Bharat, a representative of personality of Godhead, to inquire about the goal of human life. Okay, verse 21. Drishta Shramaha Karmatatmano Vai Paratur Gantur Bhavatas Chanumanye Yatha Satoda Nayanadya Bhavat Samula Ishto Vyavahara Marga. You have said, I am not fatigued from labor. Although the soul is different from the body, there is fatigue because of bodily labor. And it appears to be the fatigue of the soul. When you're carrying the palanquin, there is certainly labor for the soul. That is my conjecture. You have also said that the external behavior exhibited between the master and the servant is not factual. But although in the phenomenal world it is not factual, the products of the phenomenal world can actually affect these things, affect things. That is visible and experienced. As such, even though material activities are impermanent, they cannot be said to be untrue. So in the next 5 verses, which takes us to the end of the chapter, Rahugana is going to inquire on the response by Jet Bharat. And so far he was inquiring about the nature of Jet Bharat, who are you, and I would like to surrender to you, right? And now he is asking questions. So we still see that so if you just follow that, he begins with glorification of Jet Bharat, right? He is asking about the identity of Jet Bharat, but in that asking of the identity, there is implicit glorification. Like, who are you? So it's not like a who are you, show me or give me a social security number. It's like, who are you? You know, it's the inquiry of awe and gratification. Who are you? Then he expressed his own fear of offending Vaishnavas, right? So this is Maharaj Rahugana wanting to wipe the slate clean, right? That let not our future interactions be contaminated by my past mistakes. Please forgive me, accept me, and give me the mercy of your knowledge. And then finally, he expresses his eagerness to receive spiritual knowledge. And in that mood, he is now asking questions regarding the points made by Jet Bharat in response to his chastisement. So Vishwanath Chakravarti comments that the king thought, I will begin questioning Kapila Dev. Having met him on the road, I will first reflect his answers and in that way discover all that I asked about him. So Chakravarti Pad is saying that the king, he thinks that Jet Bharat will not respond to his direct questions, which he does not. Like he does not talk about his lineage and all that, but he does talk about his previous birth. So he thinks that the king will not respond to my, Jet Bharat will not respond to my direct inquiry. So let me take what he has spoken and inquire upon that. In that way, I will understand more about his identity based on how he responds to my challenges, because we'll see that Rahugana is essentially challenging Jet Bharat. Right? So in verse 6, Rahugana had sarcastically said to Jet Bharat, you appear to be tired. Right? And Jet Bharat responded in verse 9 saying that I can't be tired because I'm not the body. Now what the king is saying that how do you reconcile this with the fact that the person does become factually tired if he's carrying a load? He says, I will become tired if I engage in a lengthy battle. You will become tired if you have to carry a palanquin for a long time. So there is the empirical observation and there is the philosophical part, and they are at odds with one another. So Vishwanath Chakravarti says that one may say that this is how people speak in the material world, but spiritual people do not talk like this. And then Rahugana will say that such kind of statements are not practical, because while you are in the material world, you cannot uproot one's material existence. While you have a material body, you cannot pretend to not have a material body. If you're at a spiritual level, then fine. But saying that I'm not the body and fatigue does not belong to me is in direct contradiction to the fact that one does get fatigued. Vishnu Chakravarti gives the example saying that one may say that bring me a pot of water. So one cannot bring the water without a pot. Now, essentially, the person is not interested in the pot. He's just interested in the water. So the substantive thing is the water, but the pot is necessary. So the pot is temporary, it is material, and the water is spiritual. So one cannot get the water without the pot. One cannot separate spirituality without its material existence. Right? And then he says material existence is ishtar, it is samula. That authorities say that material existence is real. It is, so here he's revealing his understanding. He's saying that material existence is not imaginary. It may be temporary, but it is real. So the inference is that the material world is real, the objects in the material world are real, the experience of the doers in the material world is real. So what is not real does not have objects or doer. So if there would be no pot, there will be no water. The fact that we are able to carry water, it means there is a pot. So essentially, Prabhupada says that this is a discussion of the impersonal Mayavad philosophy and the practical philosophy of Vaishnavas. The Mayavad philosophy explains that the phenomenal world to be false, but Vaishnava philosophers do not agree. They know that the phenomenal world is temporary manifestation, but it is not false. So this is the point that the king is making. A dream that we see at night is certainly false, but a horrible dream certainly affects the person seeing it. Right? So it may be false, but its effect is real. So the soul's fatigue is not factual, but as long as one is immersed in the illusory bodily conception, one is affected by it. So Prabhupada here essentially is revealing the answer to the question, which Jad Bharat will give later on, of the relationship between matter and spirit. That factually the matter has no relationship between the spirit, but when spirit assumes that relationship, then it manifests. That appears later on. But here, the king is essentially challenging the point made by Jad Bharat, that since I'm not the body, the fatigue is not mine. So not a true statement, and is given this explanation. So it's like, a magician is pulling out a rabbit from a hat, and a karmi, he will say that the hat is real, the rabbit is real, and the rabbit coming out of the hat is real, right? So what are they saying? That the material world is real, I am real, and my interaction in the material world is real and eternal. So that is the karmis. That everything over here is real. So you have to invest your 100% in this. Then a Mayavadi sitting watching the magician, he will say that the rabbit coming out of the hat is false. And moreover, there is no hat and there is no rabbit. So they're saying that the material world is false, I am false, my interaction with the material world is false. And this is the philosophy of negation of the Mayavadis. And what will the Vaishnavas say? The hat is real, the rabbit is real, but the rabbit coming out of the hat is an illusion. It is a magic trick, which means that I am real, the material world is real, but my relationship with the material world is an illusion. So the king is speaking in terms of observed conventionality. That when we actually become fatigued by the performance of actions, that you cannot reject empirical observations in the material world. And in the next verse, he will give an example to illustrate this point. So we'll do this verse, and after that we'll pause. There are two more verses left, but both of them have little lengthy purport, so we won't rush it. I was hoping to finish the chapter, but it's okay. So let's do verse 22. Sthalyagnitāpat payasobhitapas tattapastandula garmarandhi dahendriya swashya sanikarsha tatsamsriti purashya sanurodha. King Rahugana continued, my dear sir, you have said that the designation like body fatness and thinness are not characteristics of the soul. That is incorrect, because designations like pain and pleasure are certainly felt by the soul. You may put a pot of milk and rice within fire, and the milk and the rice are automatically heated one after another. Similarly, due to bodily pains and pleasures, the senses, mind, and soul are affected. The soul cannot be completely detached from this conditioning. So the king is now explaining the point he made previously with an example. So the point that he was trying to make is, or he's negating Jad Bharat's point, the Jad Bharat said the soul is not fatigued when the body is fatigued. He's saying, yes, the soul does become fatigued when the body is fatigued. So you take a pot, in the pot you put milk, in the milk you put rice, and you put the pot on fire. Then first the pot becomes hot. Then the milk becomes hot. And then when the milk becomes hot, then the rice in the milk gets cooked. So similarly, there is a gross body, there is a subtle body, and there is a spirit soul. So when this gross body experiences something, it passes it on to the subtle body. And when the subtle body experiences something, by the law of transitivity and extrapolation, it should transfer it to the soul. The body is connected to the senses are connected to the life airs and the mind, and through the samsara, they're connected to the soul. He said there's a reason why the subtle body is sitting on this soul. Samsara here is basically karma. There's a reason why this subtle body is sitting on the soul, and there's a reason why this gross body is sitting on this subtle body. It is that reason that is going to be carrying the activities done on the gross body to the subtle and the soul. So when a person is out in the sun, then first the heat of the sun will make the body feel hot. This is just the temperature of the body increasing. Then the person will feel hot. So this is the senses experiencing the heat. Then the life airs and the mind become hot. The person begins to get agitated. Life airs meaning the person might lose consciousness. Then, and here he's extrapolating, the Atma becomes hot because they are all connected. So this again is going to be answered by Jad Bharat, and Srila Prabhupada again, he gives us mercifully the a sneak preview, right? He gives that, he explains this with a different analogy, that a person is sitting in a car and the person is different from the car, right? So if there is a damage to the car, then and this is taking the example that the damage to the car does not damage the person, but still the person will feel pain because he's attached to the car. So Prabhupada is revealing the underlying connection that whatever the king is saying is true, and whatever Jad Bharat is saying is also true. There is no connection between the body and the soul, but because the soul assumes this connection, it feels the results of that connection. So he says, similarly, the soul has nothing to do with the body and senses, but due to ignorance, he identifies himself with the body and he feels the pleasure and pain due to the bodily pleasure and pain. Okay, so let me pause over here, see if we have any discussion, comments. Oh, I see Ajuta has joined. Good to see you. Seeing you after a while. Well, seeing you emotionally.
One question, Prabhu, not related to this. So this Monday, are we having the session? We will, right?
Is there a festival or something Monday?
Monday is the Memorial Day, right? So.
Oh, Memorial Day.
So I didn't. That's what I see. Sharang Prabhu looks like he really goes to Sadhu Sangha. I am available, but today's it, even Nandkumar Prabhu looks like he's coming there. He's going to.
Okay, we can not have the session on Monday if they're not.
I'll check. I'll check with them if they're coming. We can have it. So I'll update you.
Yeah, okay. Okay, that's fine. Okay. Yeah, if you don't have any questions, we can end a little early today. Thank you. Anchakalpatarubhyascha kripa sindhubhyeva cha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namah. Anand Koti Vaishnavind ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Thai Gaur Premanand. Hare Hare Bol. Hare Krishna. Thank you very much.